We're gonna go through the cable crossover. Now, I'll be totally honest, I don't really program this very much. To me, it's not that effective of an exercise, at least in the way that people normally do it. And I believe that one of the reasons why the cable crossover had become popular is because of bodybuilding magazines. If you think about it from a photographer's perspective, it looks pretty cool for a guy to be like, rah, and doing those. So it makes for a great photo, but because you're in such an unstable position, you can't really use sufficient amount of weight to grow muscle tissue effectively. Now, maybe using it for like a supplementary exercise and getting a pump might be a good idea. But one of the things that we'll use with a crossover type movement is that when we're looking at the 3 different positions of flexion that a muscle can go through, you can work a muscle through a mid-range, you can work it through its lengthened position, or you can work it through its contracted position, or you can also work it through a combination of a few of those things. So if I think about a mid-range position, that would be a bench press. There's no real stretch component with a barbell press. There's no real contracted component unless you do something like add bands to the bar. So in that position, you could work mid-range within contraction at the end. With a cable crossover, depending on how you stand, you could work it through the lengthened position, but the main element is crossing the hands over to work the chest in the contracted position. So I'm gonna have Zoe show you how this is traditionally done. So we take a split stance and then we bring the cables across and we contract the chest. So we're trying to bring the upper arm bone, the humerus, in and contracting that into the chest. And then normally what we would do is cross the hands over every time, or we would, if we had 4 sets, we might do 1 set with right over left, 1 set with left over right, and alter it like that. Now, the main problem I have with this movement, again, is because you're in a standing position, you can't really load it effectively. So while it might not be a big deal for a beginner, when you become more advanced and you can lift a lot of weight, there's going to only so much weight that you can actually hold and stabilize. So what we would prefer to do is do it on a bench so that now I'm not limited by the amount of weight that I can do. So we can add a little bit of weight to this. Okay. Now let's try that again. And now Zoe can use the leverage of the bench to be able to then push into the bench while still getting that contracted position, but she can use far more weight with this. Okay. The key is though that you want to make sure, obviously going from a standing to a seated position, your torso is going to be lower, so we're going to have to alter where the cables are in order to put the cable in the direct line of pull for the chest. And I think the next one I'll show is not a very well-known one, which is the Swiss ball press or Swiss ball cable crossover. So on the Swiss ball cable crossover, I'm doing this in the most convoluted way, but okay. With a Swiss ball crossover, the reason I like this is because when you're on the bench, it keeps your scapula from moving appropriately. When you're on the ball, it allows your scapula and your shoulders to move in a more natural manner. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you go ahead and start to roll down. Okay, roll down, right there, good. And then I'm gonna hand you the cables. Then, now, so now we can actually move the scapula, and what I normally will do is I'll have somebody, so you can see because this is not stable, it's going to be very hard to utilize weight. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll our butt all the way to the ground. Okay, so all the way to the ground. Okay, now reach back with your butt on the ground. That's what sitting on the ground means. And now what I want you to do is I want you to lean your head back. So this is a tip I got from John Perillo for chest activation, especially for the chest muscles near the clavicle, is to, you want to keep your ball, please? Thank you. What a horrible client you are. In order to really hit the clavicular portion of the chest, lay your head back. Now on a bench, you can't do that, but John Perillo has actually created a bench that has, as the backrest goes up, it goes flat with a pad so you can lay your head back. And what he's found is that allows you to access more of the clavicular portion of the chest. So we can do that on the ball. Okay, lean back, hold that. Hold that. Now lay your head back and now press. Now as we're pressing, because Zoe's head is back, we can start to activate more of the musculature at the top of the chest here. And then we're crossing over. Do you feel the pump? Is the pump. All right. So that's how we would alter the cable crossover to make it quite a bit more effective instead of doing it in a standing position and not being very effective.